Hello students, I'm Himani Sharma, your UGC NET educator. In this new YouTube video, we are going to move forward with certain things which are related to our paper 1, the unit of higher education. Correct? So, what are we going to do in today's video? We are going to talk about the pre-independence education commissions in India. So first of all, before we jump directly into what we have as the Independence Commission says, there's a brief introduction which I have provided. Why were these these commissions introduced in the education system of India back then when the British were ruling? First of all, the major aim of the British were to, produce a class of Indians, right, which is in blood and color, but by taste and opinions, British, right? So basically, they wanted to create this very, parity, and of course, through the education, through the spread of education system in India. They were the ones who came with this very mission that we are the people who want to civilize the barbaric natives of India. So with that very aim, if let's just say, if you start knowing a person at a better level, you will be able to manipulate, you will be able to change or alter their ways to some extent, right? But same was the case with the British as well. They wanted to get introduced to the Indian system, the Indian heritage, traditions, superstitions, etc. And they also wanted to bring certain reforms in India. Even if we say that there were certain negative sides of the British ruling in India, there were some positive sides as well. So the reformation of India was one such thing, but with their hidden motive of, ruling on India for several, years. So during the pre-independence time, in India, various education commissions were introduced and formed to address the educational reforms, to talk about the technical education, to talk about the spirit of women education, which was not prominently given, that much importance in that very time when the British were, ruling. It played a crucial role in shaping the education system and policies of the time. So, first of all, if we talk about, there was this Charter Act, which was introduced in the year 1813, Charter Act. So, the role of this Charter Act was basically to provide, the East India Company was supposed to provide the Indian, basically India, to provide them with 1 lakh rupees during that very time, during the 1813s, right, the early 1800s. So basically, their major aim was this very thing, to provide 1 lakh rupees to Indians for what? For education, for the spread of education. One more thing which is of note here is that this very thing was not really taken into account. Even if the people, the East India Company people, were getting 1 lakh rupees every year, they were not properly using it for education. Then came Macaulay's Minute in 1835 February, in which he presented this very thing. So there was this Anglicist and Orientalist controversy which was there, which was saying, the Anglicists were saying that we should teach Indians much and much subjects which are related to the English sphere. Correct? But the Orientalists were supporting the Indians and saying, no, with the English education, we should also teach them education of their cultural heritage, of their traditions as well. So 1835, Macaulay was the one who was supposed to settle this very controversy down, and he produced his Macaulay's Minutes on Education. Like we have the minutes of a particular meeting in corporate, correct? So 1835 February, he, produced these very minutes. So what was his thought? I already told you in the beginning of this very video that he said that we want to raise a class of Indians in blood and color, right? But British in taste and opinions. That even if, so he was the one who brought this downward filtration theory. So he was one such person who said that yes, even if they are Indians, they will be having their mindset, etiquettes, manners, etc., manners, mannerisms, etc., according to the British, that they will be working according to the British, with the British thought of process in their minds. So what was this downward filtration theory? That we'll just teach, we'll educate certain class of the Indian people. So let's just say if I'm educated 10 Indian people, the other people who are connected to those Indian people will get motivated that yes, ye to English mein baat kar raha hai, he is educated, so they'll get motivated to get education, and hence the spread in education will be there. He was also the one who said that no funding will be there for what? For the Indian education. Now, what Indian education? If I say the Indian traditional education system, anything which is there, let's just say any books which are in Sanskrit, Hindi, etc., the East India Company will not be funding for that. This is what has been written in this very minute, these very minutes of education on on education by Macaulay in 1835. But he said that kitni bhi books, whatsoever books which have been written in English for the spread of education of English in India, East India Company will be funding for that. So this is how it started, and then the commissions were, introduced. Now, first of all, the first commission that we are going to talk about is Charles Wood's Dispatch of 1854. So I have tried my best to bring forth these very commissions, this dispatch, etc., in a proper chronological format. But if there's a mistake, you can arrange it accordingly by the end of the video. You can pause it, you can write these very recommendations, because these recommendations are asked in the NET examination per se. So, who was the one who wrote this very dispatch to Lord Dalhousie? Sorry, it was Sir Charles Wood. So, the president of the Board of Control at that point of time wrote this very dispatch on education as a message to Lord Dalhousie, who was the then Governor General of India. So, at that point of time, we had Governor Generals of India, right? So, these are the recommendations which the Wood's Dispatch had. First recommendation is to impart Western knowledge. Why? To influence the Indians about the Western system of education. Correct? To educate the natives of India. Why? Again, to build a class of civil servants who will be serving for the British, not the Indians, or the British. To develop practical and vocational skills. Practical, the practicals we have, right? So, those skills should be developed, vocational skills which are related to jobs, etc., so that people can get jobs. So this was one such thing which was progressive in nature, right? Teacher training schools should be established, and especially if we are talking about engineering, medicine and law teachers, special schools should be arranged, special schools should be established for these very particular streams, in which the teachers should also be getting training. So teachers should first be educated as in how to teach in a classroom. This was one such recommendation which was made under the Wood's Dispatch. So this was around 100-page document which had such recommendations written down there. Then we have Hunter Commission, 1882. Indian Education System, Indian Education Commission is another name for the Hunter Commission. Appointed by the British government, all the commissions which you are going to see in the mostly the pre-independence time, that will be by the British government only. So who was the chairman? Who was the head here? Headed by W. Hunter. William Wilson Hunter was the person who chaired or headed this very committee, this very commission. Now, these are the recommendations which I am asking you to jot down on your copies, because these are really important. So, what was the focus of Hunter Commission? Primary, secondary and university education, these three fields totally were considered under Hunter Commission, and if there are any reforms, that should be made. Recommendations included vernacular education, which means that the mother tongue, etc., should be vernacular in nature to some extent. So, vernacular education should be there. Teacher training should be there, which is improvised, which was already recommended in the Wood's Dispatch. Female education, so that females are also uplifted. correct? Then we have Indian Universities Commission, which is in 1902, which is also known as the Curzon Commission, which was chaired by Lord Curzon, along with Sir Thomas Raleigh. So these two people were associated with Indian Universities Commission. Now we are talking about Universities Commission. Hence, the recommendations will be based on the university system. The organization, structure and curriculum of universities in India should be taken care of, and if there is any need to reorganize those very things, that should be done. Recommendations for the establishment of provincial universities should be there, and the promotion of research and post-grad education. Post-grad means master's ki education, etc. That should be promoted. Research should also be promoted. So you see that the research that we see in today's time, the research research schemes which are established, etc., under the Research Aptitude scheme as well, which we have done, right? We can see that research is not one such thing which was there after independence per se, but it was there during the British times as well. Then we have SADLER Commission from 1917 to 1919, also known as Calcutta Universities Commission. Now, why do we know it as Calcutta University Commission? Because it was introduced, it was established, this very commission was established to examine the problems of education in Calcutta University. So, there were three basic universities which were established during the British time: Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. So, out of these three, Calcutta University Commission was there to see what are the problems in education, that are the obstacles in education that the people in Calcutta University are facing. So, headed by Michael Sadler, correct? On university education in India. Hence, first of all, what kind of university and under what university, the issues are supposed to be seen? Calcutta University, and then it could be generalized. Highlighted the importance of academic freedom, research and student welfare. This was one such thing which was introduced to see. Of course, the issues were there, so needed to be addressed, which were related to academic reform, what kind of research should be done and how it should be promoted, etc. Emphasize the need for a balanced curriculum which should be there, an integration of science and humanities. That was told by, or that was introduced by, Sadler Commission, which is also known as the Calcutta Universities Commission, 1917 to 1919. Then we have HARTOG Committee, 1929, again under the British government or the British rule. This was appointed, right, headed by Sir Philip HARTOG. So now you see that mostly the committees are named after the people who are heading it or chairing it, correct? Examine the organization and curriculum of primary education. So this is one such thing which you all should be noting down, that like the Calcutta Universities Commission, right? The Calcutta University Commission was based on the university education, right? The Indian University Commission, etc. It was also based on, it was also focusing on the university education system. So you need to keep these very things in mind. Like the HARTOG Committee, it focused on the primary education system of India, focused on university education as well and its relationship to economic and social needs, as in how you're going to get a job and then provide for the Indian development, the Indian economy as well. Practical and job-oriented curriculum. Now, job-oriented means vocational curriculum should be introduced. Promoted the importance of indigenous, that is, made in India crafts, like basically we say that indigenous crafts, etc., art, culture, values in education should be promoted. The education system should have the promotion related to the culture, the art of India, so that the students of India are also knowing about their rich cultural heritage. Correct? Then we have WARDHA scheme, which was there in 1937. It is also known, and it was proposed by the National Education Conference at WARDHA. It was headed by Mahatma Gandhi and his associates. He was one such person who was also talking about that how under WARDHA system of education, right, or under WARDHA scheme, sorry, Productive work should also be introduced. Emphasized on basic education, vocational training, use of mother tongue as the medium of instruction should be there to primary education system as well, and productive work should be introduced. Now what productive work? Like it should be introduced in the classrooms only, that students are coming, they are trying to sew something, they are trying to make certain art and crafts things. So basically the productive work should be incorporated in the education system from the beginning, so that the students have the motivation later on for the vocational training, for the vocational courses, etc. Then we have Sargent Committee, headed by Sir John Sargent, again appointed by British government. Reconstruction of education in India after World War. So 1944, right? Around 1939 to 1945-44, the World War II was there. So after that, because the British were also involved in those very things, after that again, to reconstruct the education system in India after Second World War was the major aim of the British government. Hence, the Sargent Committee was there. Emphasize the need for free and compulsory education, which should be there. Universal primary education and adult education. So this committee deals with adult education, free and compulsory education, and universal access to education of the Indians as well. Advocated for educational planning, how the curriculum should be planned, teachers should be trained, and the development of technical education under the Sargent Committee. So certain points I have brought forth already in crisp notes. Now time and again, if you see that this commission also talked about vocational training and use of mother tongue, etc. That is because the previous committee could not really implement those very programs. Hence those very things were time and again reintroduced in the other schemes or other committees which were coming one after the other. Then we have the conclusion. So basically, these schemes were there, as I already told you, for the reformation of the education system in India and how it should be promoted. We see vocational courses being there. We see the female education, the adult education seen there. So why are these things there? To promote the Western education or Western system of thought as well, that yes, females should also be educated, adults should also be getting access to education, and even children who are there, unke liye free and compulsory education should be provided, based on different types of committees, of which the recommendations we already have noted down, who headed what kind of committee, etc. So you need to know these very things, and these should be on your tips, correct? Very crucial role in shaping the education system in India, addressed various aspects including primary, secondary and university education. We already have seen that there were different committees which were dealing with different types of education system when it came to that. Influenced subsequent educational policies which came after the pre-independence time. So the post-independence committees were somewhere or the other influenced by these very educational committees which were there in the pre-independence or the British rule time. So this is what we all were supposed to cover in this very lecture, which was totally based on the pre-independence commissions of India, right? So I will be bringing forward certain new videos with other topics. Thank you so much. Have a good day and bye-bye.